So we're here talking to Aleksib ahead of his appearance at Blast. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. How has it been for you settling into Navi so far?
I think it was a cultural thing, and me playing in a Finnish lineup was a long time ago, and after that only played in international lineups since then for almost like over 3 years, and now it's coming into a culture that is way different from a lot of the international teams I've played in. But honestly, I think change is good a lot of the times, and obviously when you've got used to something, I think it's also good for your career and for everything to change up some things. And the first few days were a bit weird, and after that, now I feel like I'm settling in and everybody is finding their own ground in the team, and it feels nice actually.
What is the biggest thing that you found difficult, like culturally then? Is there one thing you can point to that's been tough for you to adjust to?
I wouldn't say tough to adjust to, but I think the main difference is that things are not being sugar coated at all, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I just know that for over 3 years in the international rosters I've been, this is a topic that many of my teammates or many of the staff behind the scenes have had their own inputs and their own thoughts, and usually the path you take is like really careful and people are sensitive and whatnot. And here I feel like it's much more straightforward, and sometimes that's really good, sometimes it might not be good, but I feel like that's the case with the current team and with this system. And actually I like it in a way. As I said, some change is good and sometimes change is necessary, and I feel like it is, it's just a more sport type feeling, and it's something else.
To take a step back, some people in the community were surprised by this move. I don't think it's one that many expected. It doesn't seem the most obvious on paper. Were you surprised at all to get the call from Navi?
I mean, in a way, yes, because the news dropped from NIP, and this was the first, like one of the first things that brought my attention. I was like, I for sure need to take this, no matter what. And I was speaking to Blade. It's his project, and he was pondering with a lot of different names. I'm guessing, and for the sake of my career and where I was after NIP and overall what I've been doing, always had a lot of respect to Navi and the consistency they've had, and I think it was a no-brainer for me. And obviously I want to do my best, and I want to prove everyone that it was the right decision, and that's just up to me to show.
How did it come about? Did Blade get in touch with you? Did Navi, the organization, get in touch with you? Like, what was the process like for you?
I mean, I don't know the behind the scenes thing, but someone contacted NIP, and then I was introduced with Blade, and I was speaking to him the whole time.
Talking about your time in NIP, it wasn't exactly the most successful, but towards the end in particular, it seemed like the team was starting to ramp up and starting to improve. How do you reflect on your time on the Ninjas?
I feel like the start of the NIP journey was not the best because we had a player who was who left the team and now took a spot in NIP, so Hampus. And so we started the journey pretty bad because we started the grind, then we stopped and took a step back, then new players without any practice and so on. So obviously we started to improve as soon as we got some time under our belt, but in the end we ended up failing to qualify for the players of the major. I think if we did that, maybe it brings a lot of confidence or whatever. But my time ended there pretty quickly, and it's been a lot of ups and downs with the whole team, even before me, a lot of roster changes and whatnot. But I feel like it was a thing meant to be, because now I feel like I'm in a really good team with really good players beside me, and it's really nice.
Is it almost bizarrely a positive thing that you didn't make the playoffs of the major with NIP because maybe they wouldn't have benched you and maybe you wouldn't be stood on Navi right now?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like, I don't know. I know I finished saying to this, but just as you said, maybe none of this would have happened, and maybe I would never end up in Navi, and I like it right now.
There is a lot of talk in the community about you in general. Obviously, the community like to have their opinions, and people generally fall into two camps. The idea that you seem to fail upwards, or that actually you're one of the best in-game leaders we have in the scene. Do you have any reflections on that debate? Do you care what the community perception is of you?
I mean, obviously I care, and obviously it kind of hurts that a lot of people might be saying that I don't deserve it or whatever. And to be honest, like that obviously fuels something in me to show that I actually deserve something. But at the same time, I get it, right? Like it's not on paper, it doesn't look pretty, and I feel like it's been a bit unfortunate with the relationship with some of the coaches and us not being on the same page. Although I feel like I was on the same page with DJL, but maybe it was the management might have some different opinions, and that's whatever. But I feel like my time in G2 and now my time in here, I just want to make sure that me and the coach are getting along well, because a lot of these top teams right now, I feel like they're giving a lot of keys to the coach, and they're usually the ones building the team with the management, and the players have no say. So in a way, it's like I want to make it work as a leader, and I want to work with someone who's willing to trust me and to trust anyone, right? And I feel like it's a misconception that I'm way too strict or something, or I'm adding like way too much structure or something like that. Like that's definitely not the case if I have players who are capable of playing good CS and understanding what they're doing and telling the team what they want to do and whatever. If I have more teammates that tend to be more quiet, it's a different story, because that's when you have to take some of the responsibilities in your own hands. But in the end, it's been a rough road for me for the past 1.5 years, but I'm trying my best to make it work in Navi.
I was actually going to ask a little bit about that, about your style. Obviously, the community's perception of your style. You micromanage, you're strict. Have you ever had to sit back and reflect upon yourself as an in-game leader based on any of these criticisms? Has it ever maybe made you question and say, am I too strict? Do I micromanage too much?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's basic for you to reflect, and for me also as an individual, I think I do reflect on things. But as I said, like for example G2, there was no need for me to micromanage Nico or Hunter. Maybe at the time, Extas, Nico, me, like everyone was chiming in for the sake of Monesi. He never played in tier 1 when he started playing with us. So obviously he needed some guidance here and there, or if he was asking for tips or whatever it might have been. But I had no need to tell anything for Nico and Hunter, for example. They had the experience, and obviously I look up to Nico and the way he plays. And it's just the same thing here as well. Like I have Simple on my side, and I feel like this guy knows what he's doing. Like who am I to say what he wants to do or not? So I feel like as long as we're on the same page as a team, and for the rounds we want to play, and whatever the style we have, everything's right. Like I'm not the type of guy to deny these people, but yeah, it is what it is.
Looking on paper, this might be the most firepower you've ever had. Maybe G2 is comparable, but there's obviously a huge amount of talent on this roster. How do you feel you're going to utilize that? Obviously a little bit different from, for example, what you had to work with in OG and NIP.
Yes, I do think we have a lot of firepower, but I think this team, the issue isn't that, or necessarily hasn't been in some of my previous teams. It is us just being on the same page, understanding the roles we have, understanding the system we have, and the communication. Because I think for this team, communication is one of the biggest keys, and I feel like that's the thing all the top teams are always saying, like we need to improve the communication. But for me, I feel like for Navi, it's been the same system, the same culture, the same everything for God knows how many years, and now it's something completely different. And I feel like Bit and Simple understand it. I feel like the coach understand it, but it still will take some time for everything to be adjusted, for everyone to feel comfortable. So I do think that there might be, the first 1 or 2 months, or maybe when the game changes and when everything changes, there might be uncomfortable times for some of our individuals, or maybe not being able to show everything they have. But I'm just hoping we we're gonna grind it through for the past, for the next 6 months or so, and getting settled in CS2 and whatever. And I think it's gonna be fine.
Do you have a timeline for this roster? Have you sat down with Blade or sat down with Navi and said, 6 months is when we need to start seeing results, or is there any kind of timeline like that put on you?
I mean, I feel like we want to do the timeline we have is we're watching, and EPL should be a timer where we have had at least some tournaments under our belt, some practice. We should be good on most of the maps, and EPL should be fine for us. But who knows when the game's gonna change, what's gonna happen in CS2, what the maps are gonna be. There is so many different things that could happen. So for us, or for any team rather, I think it's hard to say for the next 6 months what's about to happen. We can maybe only look the next 2 months, because once the game changes, once we know what is the first tournament in CS2, once we know what the meta is, I think there is too many variables for anyone to say what's the next 6 months gonna be like. But we have a perspective on some of the things, and I think it's gonna be fine.
Final question, and then I'll let you go. What are the targets and goals for this Blast group stage? Is it simply working the team up into form? Obviously, first tournament, completely new roster, maybe some language barriers to overcome. What are the thoughts for this Blast group stage?
I mean, kind of seeing where we are on the maps that we practice the most. Obviously, there might be outliers here and there, and figuring out the map pool, what we want to pick, all these kind of things, or focusing on our CT side, on our T side. For us, it is really early to have a tournament after the player break and the bootcamp we had. Tried to do our best. And this tournament, usually I'm not really a fan of this long, having a day off in between all the games. But maybe for us it's for the good, because we can maybe fix some things here and there. But in the end, I feel like this tournament is like a stepping stone for Cologne, and just overall for the future. And I just hope we're going to have some fun playing.
Thank you for your time. Good luck.